Hello everyone. So in this third video on the topic of placing individual buildings on parcels, I want to improve on the script I was explaining in the previous two videos. This was the result of the last video. I want to introduce some enhancements to the script, solve some problems of it, and just show you how to also place different typologies of buildings depending on the size of the parcels. So this was the result of the previous video. As you can see, I did not change the script that much. So we have started with um, city blocks, went into creating minor streets with the script which we also later use for parcellation. And after the parcellation, we use the parcels in the script to place buildings on parcels, right? So we go through this whole process of finding the edges which face the street, which are oriented towards the street, um, and we take our building, which we drew beforehand here, and we place it in all on all these parcels so that they are all facing streets. I have restructured the script a little bit and provided it with some descriptions of data, which is stored on each step of the script, so that it is a bit easier to navigate through it. But I did not change the behavior of the script itself. Okay, so now let us first try to solve some problems of the script, and this will be pretty quick. And basically, as you can see, the main problem now is that some buildings are placed on really small parcels, which cannot accommodate them and which do not provide enough space for the building. So I want to fix this. And the second problem I can see here is that some buildings are placed against a very tiny edge of the parcel. So in this case, you can see that even though the parcel is large enough to place the building, for some reason Grasshopper selected this tiny parcel. Let me show all the points, all the vertices of the parcel so that you can see. There is indeed a very tiny edge here, and it was selected by Grasshopper to place the building against this one and not the longer one, for the reason that both of them have the same distance to the street, since the street is probably going along these edges. So we want to fix basically two of these issues. First of all, let us fix the main issue that some parcels are just not large enough to accommodate any house, any building. To fix it, I simply want to filter out the parcels which are not large enough. So I give some space here in the very beginning of the script. And yeah, to filter out the parcels, I need three components. I would need the component larger than, I would need the component cal pattern, which will allow me to filter out some things. And obviously, I would also need the slider or a panel with the area of the parcel. And yeah, the area component would also be nice since it will give us the number of square meters in this parcel. So I will start with creating all components. So the area, I probably need a bit more space. Now cal pattern. This will be the last component in this chain, and also larger than or smaller than. It doesn't really matter. Um, I would also probably create a new slider from 0 meters to, let's say, 4,000 meters. Okay, let us now connect all these components. So we need to evaluate the area of each parcel. The A output provides me with the area, and I need to check whether it is larger or smaller than some number. I will just put it randomly to, let's say, 2,000 square meters. And um, based on this comparison, I want to filter out some parcels. So I'll just connect it like this. And as you already see, some of the parcels are indeed filtered out. And yeah, I think I made a pretty good estimation that I would need this area to be somewhere between 2,000 square meters and 4,000 square meters. As you can see here, that some parcels which are too small for a building are indeed filtered out, and now I just need to find this the correct value for it. So to do it, I can already connect call parcel instead of the original parcels data. So I just put it right here between parcels and filter curve. Um, I can also make it all look a bit tidier, like this. I also always try to match the wire beginning with the wire end so that I don't see any like too many curvy lines when I don't need it actually. Um, okay, now let me also jump to the placed buildings and see what happens here. So um, let us check whether we still have some problems. So I can see here that in those three cases, I would still face problems. And even though I put 2,800 square meters as my threshold for the parcel size, you can see that the buildings there do not actually fit inside. So I might want to increase this threshold so that at least like the smallest of these parcels disappear. Um, Depending on how many of these buggy shapes you have, you might also want to increase it all the way to 5,000 or 6,000. I'll probably actually do it. So 5,000. Okay, I just saw that some parcels disappeared. Um, and let us check which of them disappeared. Okay, so I think 5,000 is already a bit too much for me because on the example of this parcel, you can see that it is now filtered out, even though the building actually fits there. So it's not the best fit, but I guess it should not disappear. So I would leave it by 4,500 or something like that. Okay, now let me check again what I have here. So yeah, the places which actually bothered me disappeared. So now I still have some errors, but it's mainly due to the um, really small edge being selected to orient building in front of it. And these things I can fix in another, yeah, with another thing here. And I think that, okay, yeah, this parcel did not disappear, and this is good because I actually wanted to use it as an example for what I want to do next. So again, let us jump to the next part. Now I want to eliminate these cases where the building is using the very tiny edge to orient itself towards the street. So I would rather prefer it to be somewhere in the center of this longer edge, right? Somewhere in the middle, closer to the middle of this edge here. To do it, we need to again check what are all the steps which we take here on placing the building. So how do we actually do it? And I will just briefly go over it. So we explode the parcel into individual edges. Then for each individual edge, we take its center point, so its middle point, and we calculate distance from every single of these center points to all the streets, to every single street we have here. Just because we don't know yet which is the closest street to this center point. Then I sort those lengths to actually get the shortest distance to the closest street. I get this number, and then I use this distance from each edge to the closest street to this edge. I use this number to sort uh, the list of these numbers and at the same time sort all edges of the parcel. Right. So in this way, I can get the sorted list of parcel edges, and they're sorted based on their distance to the closest street. And then I simply take the very first item from this list. So if you check this um, list of closest edges and buildings, you will see that these edges are later used to orient buildings. And this is where the problem comes from. So on this step, two of these edges had exactly the same distance to the street. So Grasshopper just um, like it did not have any information to decide on how to order or which of these edges to choose, which of them should come first in this list of sorted edges. So it simply yeah um, placed them like one after another without any particular reason to do it. Um, I do not know of any simple and intuitive solution to how to sort um, edges with the same distance to the street based on their length. So it will probably require something to be put right here between the sort list and the list item. I'm not sure I know how to do it, or rather, it would be just too inefficient and too hard to implement. So what I would prefer to do here is to rather go to the explode component, and here before I take all the segments and start all this process for all the segments, on this step I want to actually filter out all edges which are too small. So I do not want to consider them at all, right? Because I cannot do anything with them. It's just too tiny of an edge to be considered for building placement there. So again, I press Alt, and with the left click of my mouse, I give some space for the new components here. And what I want to do is to estimate to evaluate the length of each segment. Right. Also, I want to um, well move um, move this wires connecting the segments to another component, which I created and moved to the right now, simply because I want to introduce some new logic here. So what I want to do, I want to measure the length of each segment, and if it is smaller than, let's say, 10 meters, I want to filter it out. So filter out, it means call pattern, right? Exactly the same, um, well, the same sequence as we had before. So if the length is smaller than some number, I'll just use the panel in this case because I don't want to change this number that much. So if it is smaller than 10 meters, and what is smaller, this segment length, then what do? I use this information to get rid of some edges. Okay, now you see that like as the result, I got the tiny edge itself. So I should have used larger than instead of smaller than, because this one gives me the edges which are actually smaller than 10 meters long. Yeah, so I could either exchange the smaller than with larger than, or I can also right click on this pattern input and select invert. It's exactly the same thing. And now you can see that the edge disappeared. So now I still have the list of all edges, and it is structured in exactly the same way, but the tiniest edges um, are not here anymore. So you can see that this edge is still here, and I can check its length by typing distance in Rhino. And now I can just try to estimate what is the distance of it. It's 11 meters. Okay, so it probably means that I can increase my number to something like 15 meters, because I also don't want any building to be placed against this edge here, even though it doesn't happen in my case. Yeah, it looks good to me. And now I can simply connect it to this data component which I used here. I can also give it a name like filtered edges. Okay, I need some more space here. Yes, okay, I think it looks good. Um, and yeah, you might now question yourself whether we just remove these edges all together and whether we should not restore them in some way later on. But actually, if you check what we do with these edges, you will see that we only use them to, yeah, to find these edges closest to the street, and then we use them to place our buildings. So we do not use this information in any other way here. So we don't lose anything by filtering out some edges. And if we would need to get our like the contours, the outlines of our parcels, we would need to go all the way to the beginning of the script, right? Because we did not change parcels that much. We just filtered some of them out, and then we also filtered out some of their edges. Um, so it is completely safe to filter out these edges, as you can see. And now, if I check the results, let me see if I can find some errors. Yes, I still can find some errors actually, but I would just consider them to be too small to take them into account now, um, because yeah, in these cases it might um, just take too long to fix them, right? So this building, of course, could have been placed much more efficiently. The same with this building and the third one, but since they were placed this way, I cannot figure out how to um, make my script behave better with a minimum amount of changes. It will probably require like a couple of hours of improvements, and I don't want to spend that much of your time here. Um, it's always a good idea to test your script after you have changed it. So maybe try to um, change some of the streets and check what the results look like. Maybe try to implement some really um, weird cases like this one with this really sharp street angle, just to get sure that like you did not introduce any problems you did not have before, right? And just to get sure that actually everything works as intended. Also, don't forget that in the parcellation script, we have this attractor, which is like which should be displayed in blue color if you turn off this preview of selected items. So it might also be a good idea to replace to move it somewhere else to check um, whether everything is still okay and whether everything reacts as it should to the placement of a tractor. And I think in my case, I actually only have really tiny problems here. So, okay, in these two cases, you see that the edge where the building was placed was still too small. So I will maybe try to go back to this place and increase this threshold from 20 to from 15 to let's say 20 meters. Well, at least one building was displaced, and maybe if I put 25, the second one will also change its position. And yeah, I think 25 is a really high number already, and I would not advise to put anything larger than this. But I think it all looks pretty nice. The last thing I wanted to do in this video is to show you how to choose different building typologies for different size of parcels. So as you can see, when I reposition this attractor, the size of parcels also change according to where the attractor was placed. So in the parcels which are really close to it, the size jumps down, so the size is really small. And in this farthest corners, you can see that the size is so much larger than the size of the building that it'll probably make sense to place a larger building here as well. Let us do it. Um, to do this, we would need to go to this last part of our script, where we have the building rectangle, which is referenced from Rhino, from here, and we also have our reference street, right? And as you remember, we use this distance to place the building correctly on the parcel. Now I want to create a new typology, the larger building. I would simply use it. I would simply use the polyline for it, and this time, I don't know. I want to create some more elaborate um, design so that you can also see that the building actually can be of any shape. It shouldn't be just uh, just a square. So it probably creates something like this. I also need to reference this typology as well as my first one. So I would copy this building rectangle and uh, reference this one here. Now I want to somehow differentiate between them, so I'd give them different names, building S and building L. Now, how do I choose one of them based on the size of the parcel? Um, so this, as I'm using the data trees in this whole script, you can see that my edges, which are used to place the buildings, are stored in the data tree of 185 branches, starting from zero, of course. And if I go back to my parcels, I can see that in the beginning I had 225 parcels. So it is not the same number, and of course it happens because I filter out some of the parcels. I get rid of the smallest ones. So I would probably need to use those oriented parcels, or I can also check to take the output of this call pattern. Right? I can also give it a name like filtered parcels. Yeah, I would probably use these ones. So I will copy this data container and reference it to the filtered parcels so that everything looks tidy. I will bring it all the way here to my buildings. And now, how do I check whether the size of the parcel is large or small? I will just compare it against some number. So again, use the larger than component. I will again use the area component and check whether the area of my parcel is larger than some number between 0 and let's say 30, no, maybe 10,000 square meters. So this is my comparison, and now the result is a list of true and false values of the length of 185, exactly what I need. Now I need to introduce some way of picking the right building for the right parcel. And I think the last time I did it, pick and choose component worked really well. So I will try to use this one as well. So pick and choose from a set of input data. It looks like something that I actually want to use. As you can see, if I zoom in, I can also increase number of inputs. So if you have multiple topologies, not only two, but maybe three or four, you can just increase number of inputs. So in the P input pattern, you need to provide a list of zeros and ones or twos, threes, and so on, based on which of these input items you want to choose. So I need to create a list of 185 zeros and ones to indicate whether I want to take the input from 0 or the input from 1 to generate the final list of all buildings, right? So I will first of all connect my building S and building L to these 0 and 1 inputs. And as the pattern, we can simply use the larger than output, because even though it gives us the true and false, if you convert them to number, this will be converted to zeros and ones, respectively. Like true will be converted to 1, and and false will be converted to 0. So I will use this number in this P input. And now I think I can simply connect the result of this pick and choose to the orient component. But yeah, if I check the result, you can see that it tells me that most of the things here are null. Why is it so? Let us check what it tells us. The error message goes like input stream too short for pattern. It probably indicates that if I intend to place 185 items from these input lists, the input lists themselves also need to contain at least 185 elements. Um, I don't actually want to bother this much creating those like lists of duplicates of the same building. I can of course do it, and a cool component for it is duplicate data. It just takes some data and the number of duplicates, and it just gives you the list of these duplicate items. I don't want to do it because I know the solution, which is much simpler. I simply need to graft the p input of pick and choose. This will put uh, each one of these ones and zeros in its own branch, meaning that pick and choose will work independently for each of the branches. And it also means that it will perceive these inputs 0 and 1 um, all over again, starting from the first element in the list on every branch. So it means that it won't create any problems and any errors for us. And moreover, I also needed to structure my outputs in the data tree instead of the list, because the orient component already works with a data tree. So I just want to use exactly the same data structure. Let me save my file first and try to connect this pick and choose to the G input of orient component. Okay, I do not know what the results are, so I will just select parcels and buildings so that I can see the results and zoom out a bit. Okay, as you can see, it did not it was not that successful. Um, Let me now talk about two things I need to import here. So first of all, you see that all of my buildings are large buildings. So not a single one building was a small building, as far as I can see. And maybe for this we need to check. Yes, we need to check the area, or we need to check the slider I'm using here. And as you can see, my slider is actually 0.1. I think I just entered some wrong number. So instead of 10,000, it gave me the slider from 0 to 0.1. And I need to replace this slider with the correct one. Let me check now. Okay, now it looks so much better, as you can see. So some buildings were placed correctly, and these are small buildings. And some buildings, which are the larger buildings, were placed in incorrect positions, but they were still chosen correctly for those parcels. Now, why are they placed incorrectly? This is because we use the orient component needs to have the source plane from where it takes the object from and moves to the target plane. And currently we use the center point of building A, so building S, the smaller building, which we then project onto the reference street. So no matter which building we actually place, be it the larger building or the smaller building, we always use this point to align it with the center point of the edge. And of course, for the larger building, we would need to have the point here in front of the building itself and not in front of the smaller building. Yeah, I think it would be pretty easy uh, to change it, to change this behavior. And the only thing I want to change is to reconnect my pick and choose with the area component. So I want to use the selected building to take its center point and then project it onto the street instead of just always picking the same point from the building S. So I would need to connect my pick and choose to the area, and I hope it works this time. And yes, it does. So you can see this is a really easy way to place multiple topologies based on this on the parcel area. And now, of course, you can maybe play with the size of the building. As you can see, my large buildings are not uh, very large still, so maybe I can make them I don't know, either wider or longer. Doesn't really matter that much. You can also place them a bit uh, further away from the street or closer, depending on what you actually want to do. Maybe your larger building is not that much larger, it just stands deeper in the parcel so that you have some more private space in front of the building. This could be also an option, but I will probably make it just as slightly, just slightly larger so that you can see the difference very clearly. Okay, this is it. Um, I think I have showed you all the things I wanted uh, concerning this script. I can now restructure it a bit because now I got some new inputs and um, new parts of the script. So it will probably require some um, better structuring of the script itself so that the things do not confuse anybody who is working with the script. But overall, I think I'm very happy with what I have. And let me just show you the final result. I would need to turn off this green button uh, here, and I also want to turn off preview of all things, including my parcels, or no, I can actually leave my parcels here. And now I just need to strategically select some of the previews. So probably I will select the parcels here on this step before I filter them out, so that the smallest parcels are also visible. They will just contain no buildings inside. And I also want to turn on preview of the last component I have here, the placed buildings. Um, this is it. And now you can play a bit more with the script, check how it um, reacts to your changes, how it reacts um, um, to the thing when you move your attractor, and how it places the buildings differently now. Also, as you can see, you might play with the threshold of the parcel size a bit, because here I do not actually notice this big of a difference between those two parcels. The one on the left is just a little bit larger, and yeah, still the smaller building was selected for this second parcel. So maybe I want to turn it down to something like 8,000 square meters so that my settlement looks a bit more consistent. Yeah, I think I'm happy with what I have here. Like maybe I would change the building shape a bit. I don't like it that much. Maybe something like that. Yes, I think it looks nice. And in one of the next videos, I will also show you how to set up your visualization or the preview of your Rhino file in a nice way. And I think we might even continue working with the same file. So you will see how to style it, how to add some colors to it, how to go into 3D and add some trees and so on. Yes, I think that was it. Thank you for watching.